The 1960s, a decade often remembered for its counterculture and the rise of rock and roll. But beneath the surface of flower power and psychedelic exploration, a raw, untamed energy was brewing. This was the nascent sound of proto-punk. Bands like the Stooges, MC5, and the Velvet Underground emerged, challenging the polished conventions of mainstream rock. Their music was raw, loud, and unapologetically rebellious. The Stooges, led by the enigmatic Iggy Pop, unleashed a sonic assault that shocked audiences. Their music was primal, fueled by feedback-drenched guitars and Iggy's unpredictable stage antics. MC5, from the Motor City of Detroit, combined rock and roll with revolutionary politics. Their high-energy performances were anthems for a generation yearning for change. Then there was the Velvet Underground, fronted by the enigmatic Lou Reed. Their music delved into the darker side of urban life, exploring themes of drug addiction, sexual ambiguity, and social alienation. These proto-punk pioneers set the stage for a musical revolution. They embodied a DIY ethic, often self-producing their music and challenging the established norms of the music industry. Little did they know their raw sound and rebellious spirit would ignite a firestorm. The mid-1970s, a time of economic turmoil and social unrest. The optimism of the 60s had faded, leaving disillusionment and anger. From this, punk rock exploded onto the scene. In London and New York, new bands emerged. Their music was a furious blast of energy and rebellion. In the UK, the Sex Pistols became the poster boys of punk's fury. Johnny Rotten and Sid Vicious became icons and targets of moral outrage. The Clash offered a powerful critique of social injustice. In New York, CBGBs became the epicenter of American punk. The Ramones became synonymous with the CBGB's sound. Their songs were stripped down to pounding drums, driving bass lines, and catchy melodies. Punk rejected the excesses of stadium rock, the complacency of the hippie generation, and societal conformity. By the late 1970s, punk was evolving. The raw energy and rebellion remained, but a new wave of bands pushed the boundaries even further. This was hardcore punk, faster, louder, and angrier than its predecessor. Bands like Black Flag, Minor Threat, and Bad Brains emerged from the underground, their music a relentless assault of speed and aggression. Black Flag from Los Angeles became synonymous with hardcore's intensity. Their relentless touring schedule and uncompromising music earned them a devoted following. Their music was a guttural howl against conformity and societal pressures. Minor Threat from Washington, D.C. championed a straight-edge lifestyle, rejecting drug and alcohol use and promoting self-control and personal responsibility. Hardcore wasn't just about speed and aggression, though. It was also about creating a sense of community, a space where people who felt like outsiders could come together and find acceptance. The DIY ethos of punk was even more pronounced in hardcore, with bands often self-releasing their music, organizing their own shows, and creating their own subculture. The music was raw, unpolished, and uncompromising. Punk was never a monolithic movement. From its early days, it spawned a multitude of subgenres, each with its own unique sound and message. In the 1980s, this diversification continued, as bands explored new sonic territories and embraced a wide range of influences. Post-punk bands like Joy Division, The Cure, and Susie and the Banshees emerged, their music darker, more experimental, and introspective. OE, a working-class subgenre, combined punk's energy with elements of football chants and pub rock. Bands like Sham 69 and Cocksparer gave voice to the frustrations and anxieties of a generation facing economic hardship and social unrest. Anarcho-punk bands like Crass and Flux of Pink Indians combined punk's rebellious spirit with anarchist politics, promoting direct action, animal rights, and environmentalism. Their music was often confrontational and challenging, using harsh noise and spoken word to convey their message. From the dark, atmospheric soundscapes of post-punk to the street-level anthems of Oi and the radical politics of anarcho-punk, punk's influence was felt far and wide. It was a testament to the genre's enduring power and its ability to adapt and evolve. Section 5, Generation X's soundtrack, Pop Punk Takes Over, the 1990s. The Cold War was over, grunge had exploded, and a new generation was coming of age. Punk found a new audience and a new sound. This was the era of pop punk. Bands like Green Day, Blink-182, and The Offspring fused punk with catchy melodies. Their music resonated with teenagers dealing with angst and uncertainties. Green Day's Dookie in 1994 became a cultural phenomenon. Songs like Basket Case became anthems for a generation. Blink-182 also achieved massive success. Pop-punk wasn't without its critics. Some saw it as a commercialized version of the genre, but for millions, pop-punk provided a sense of belonging. It was music that was both catchy and cathartic. Section 6. The New Millennium, Punk's Enduring Spirit. As the 20th century gave way to the 21st, punk continued to evolve and inspire. While pop-punk remained a dominant force, with bands like My Chemical Romance, Fall Out Boy, and Paramore achieving mainstream success, other subgenres continued to thrive. Garage rock experienced a resurgence, with bands like The Strokes, The White Stripes, and the Yeah Yeah Yeahs drawing inspiration from the raw energy of proto-punk and the DIY ethos of the 1970s punk scene. Indie rock bands like Arcade Fire, The National, and LCD Sound System incorporated elements of post-punk and experimental rock into their music, creating complex and challenging soundscapes. Punk, once a marginalized subculture, had become a touchstone for musicians across a wide range of genres. Its influence could be heard in the music of artists who had never even picked up a guitar during punk's heyday. The spirit of punk, the DIY ethic, the rebellious attitude, the refusal to conform lived on. Section 7. A 2020s Renaissance pop-punk's comeback kings. The 2020s witnessed a resurgence of interest in pop-punk. Nostalgia for the 1990s and early 2000s, coupled with a desire for music that offered both escapism and emotional catharsis, fueled this revival. Bands like My Chemical Romance, who had been on hiatus since 2013, reunited to much fanfare. Their return to the stage was met with ecstatic crowds, eager to relive the emo anthems of their youth. Other established pop-punk acts like Fall Out Boy, Panic, At the Disco, and Blink-182 continued to release new music, their sound evolving to incorporate elements of contemporary pop and electronic music. Artists from other genres, such as Machine Gun Kelly and Willow Smith, embraced pop-punk influences, introducing the genre to a new generation of fans. This pop-punk revival wasn't just a rehash of the past. It reflected the anxieties and uncertainties of a new era, dealing with themes of mental health, social media, and political turmoil. The music provided a sense of community and shared experience in a world that often felt increasingly isolating and divided. Section 8. Punk's new wave, fresh faces and fierce voices. While established acts enjoyed renewed success, a new generation of punk bands emerged, carrying the torch of rebellion and DIY ethics into the 2020s. These bands represented the diverse sounds and perspectives of contemporary punk, from the riot girl-inspired energy of bands like The Regrets and Amyl and The Sniffers, to the politically charged hardcore of Turnstile and Gulch. Meet Me at the Altar, a trio of women of color, brought a fresh perspective to pop-punk, their music tackling issues of representation, identity, and social justice. Their infectious energy and positive message resonated with a generation hungry for change. Willow, formerly known as Willow Smith, defied expectations, shedding her child star image to embrace a more guitar-driven, punk-infused sound. Her music explored themes of self-discovery, individuality, and empowerment. These new voices in punk reflected the genre's enduring ability to adapt, evolve, and provide a platform for marginalized communities. They proved that the spirit of punk, the raw energy, the DIY ethic, the refusal to conform, was alive and well.
Don't wanna sleep in, cause I got something to prove. I gotta take what I hate and finally make a move. I think of you and all the shit you don't do. Well, I'ma make hella sure that I don't become you. I have no regrets, yeah, I'll tie up my chest. I'll never forget what it's like to be in debt. Been stabbed in the back bed, I'll show you what happens. Pass me the mic and I'll show you with action. I feel this pain, you already know. Turn that to gains, let my money show. I've got these things that I can't let go. Watch me turn this life into something that you could never own. I feel this pain, you already know. Turn that to gains, let my
who dare to be different, punk will continue to thrive.